I just watched one of the most demonic performances that I have ever seen.
Really? You need to get out more. I am sure there are many more demonic performances you could complain to the manager about. Christians like Chad here have quite the racket. They constantly move the goalpost to include literally anything as demonic. Nowhere in the KJV Bible or any Bible, to my knowledge, does it read that the pentagram is demonic or satanic. In fact, some churches see the pentagram as representing the 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch, or the 5 wounds of the Christ. Religious bigots like Chad here want to label whatever they don't like as satanic. Absolutely nothing in Bambi's performance was demonic. In many witchcraft traditions, the pentagram represents the 5 elements: air, fire, water, earth, and spirit being the upper point, symbolizing the witch's control over the elements.
As the incredibly popular Eurovision, which garners close to 180 million viewers, just had a competitor from Ireland, Bambi Thug, make the final while performing her song Doomsday Blue, as she started her performance inside of a pentagram and ended with a sign stating, quote, "Crown the Witch," as she cast a death spell from Harry Potter on the audience.
A death spell. Wow, that's a 9th level spell. They must be a high level sorceress. I know this is BS. My audience knows this is BS. The dynamic duo which makes up Good Fight Ministries are the ultimate echo chamber. Pinky and the Brain here think Harry Potter's actual ceremonial magic. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. If this is your first time here, welcome. I make videos debunking nonsense and even outright lies about paganism, witchcraft, and the occult. So sit back, get yourself a snack as we dive into the superstitious, fearful minds of ignorant bigots and laugh at them. I hope you enjoy. I am defending Bambi Thug's right to freedom of expression and freedom of religion. I do not necessarily agree with all the positions they hold.
Welcome back to the 511 News. I'm your host, Chad Davidson of Good Fight Ministries. And on today's episode, we're going to be looking at the recent performance by the artist Bambi Thug. She starts out the entire performance inside of a pentagram and lights candles around it. She ends the entire satanic and seductive display with the words "Crown the Witch" displayed as she casts the spell. Now, what spell does she cast?
Well, according to you, a 9th level wizard spell, which only requires a verbal component. You utter a word of power that can compel one creature you can see within range to die instantly. If the creature you choose has 100 hit points or fewer, it dies. Otherwise, the spell has no effect. Good thing everybody within 60 feet of them had more than 100 hit points.
The last lyric of the song is Abracadabra, I speak to destroy. Well, where did she get this? Well, from none other than, of course, Harry Potter, and specifically Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Wow, color me surprised. This is why I'm not taking this seriously. He believes Harry Potter dialogue is actual witchcraft. So why not throw Dungeons and Dragons in there? Instead of heavy metal music making up the unholy trinity of the satanic panic, we have Eurovision pop music. I mean, come on, we're talking about Good Fight Ministries here. They see Satan under every rock. This is where skepticism takes a backseat and fantasy drives the bus. Good Fight Ministries? Yeah, right. There's only 2 of them. Talk about a tiny ministry of make-believers.
We're going to be playing a clip here where she actually talks about the fact that she practices witchcraft. And one of the things I really want you to pay attention to in this clip, and hopefully for parents, hopefully for really anybody, recognizing this discipleship method.
Discipleship method. There is no discipleship. You are confusing it with Christianity. The path of neo-paganism and witchcraft is a path of self-discovery, not a discipleship. There are many solitary witches, and not every witch seeks out a teacher or a group of like-minded people.
That goes on, not only with witchcraft, but also, I haven't even mentioned it, but the fact that Bambi Thug has come out as queer, has come out as She identifies as non-binary. She wants to be attributed to as a they, them, even though she is obviously a woman.
Neo-paganism and witchcraft has nothing to do with being queer or non-binary. I know you really want to intertwine these things, but neo-paganism and witchcraft are open to anyone regardless of their sexual orientation or self-identity. And your name is Chad, right? How would you like it if I kept referring to you as Bob, even though you clearly told me your name is Chad? Would you get annoyed with me? Maybe refer to people who identify as non-binary with the pronouns they prefer.
And it's one of those things, like, whenever I hear that, it is always very interesting when they want to, I'm using it in the plurality here.
Looks like Bob finally found the plural pronoun playbook. Took him a minute, but hey, better late than never. Now, let's all buckle up and see where this wild detour takes us.
When anybody in the transgender movement wants to use the term they, especially when we even think about scripture, and when Jesus went to the Gadarenes, and when he went there, and when he took the demons outside of the demoniac at the tombs.
As we will see in a minute, he is choosing Mark's over Matthew's version of this story. After all, what good is a Christian bigot if they don't cherry-pick verses to further their hate-filled agenda?
Before he casts the demons out into the swine, he asks, "What is your name?" to the demons. And they say, specifically, "We are legion, for we are many," identifying themselves as a plurality. And that does kind of look like that.
That's because in your Christian book of mythology, there are two versions. In Matthew, it is two persons, and in Mark, it is one person. This just further illustrates your desire to cherry-pick verses and twist them to conform to your bigoted agenda.
When it comes to those in this movement, and a lot of it does stem from Helena Blavatsky, the divine feminine, people believing that you have these different spirits.
Theosophy did not invent non-binary people, nor did the divine feminine. Gender bending, cross-dressing, and homosexuality has been known around the world in many cultures for thousands of years. Could identifying as different pronouns be a fad for young people nowadays? Sure, it is possible, but I'm not a psychologist, nor a psychiatrist, so I will leave that to those more qualified than myself. Can we get back to witchcraft now? I know you want to throw everything into the same bucket and blame H.P. Blavatsky and Harry Potter for it, but much like human sexuality, it is not that, and please forgive the pun, but it's just not that binary.
Contained within inside of you, the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and ultimately this they-them idea comes from that, and ultimately it is demonic.
The concept of a divine masculine and a divine feminine is still binary and probably stems from polytheism, not H.P. Blavatsky or theosophy. Many witchcraft traditions have the concept of a male deity and a female deity, the witch mother and the witch father. And this conforms to the typical binary of male and female, not a fluid they-them. How God made man and woman in his own image being only masculine, I will never understand. Oh, that's right. He made Adam from dust and Eve from Adam's rib. Dusty old Adam and his McRib.
That's exactly what it is. And it is heartbreaking because Satan has done a really good job of making people over and over again feel discarded, pushed to the side.
You keep confusing neo-paganism and witchcraft with Christianity. Many Christian sects do not accept homosexuality or people with gender dysphoria, and they push them away. Satan is not doing this. Your bigotry is. You are doing that right now in this video. Honestly, I think so many marginalized groups identify with other religions besides Christianity because they are welcomed and embraced and accepted for who they are, not what you expect them to be. People interested in neo-paganism or witchcraft come from all walks of life.
And in doing so, brings forth disciples to say, oh, this is the reason you're having problems. Follow this philosophy of theosophy, and ultimately you're going to be okay.
Where in the hell is that written? And who is saying it? I really don't understand this hate boner you have for theosophy. I thought this was about witchcraft and neo-paganism.
And listen to Bambi Thug here discuss and describe exactly how she got brought into witchcraft.
They edited this clip and left out some very relevant points that Bambi Thug made concerning their journey in witchcraft. They are Irish and identified with pre-Christian pagan practices. They expressed their childhood was filled with having a strong connection with the earth and the trees. They also used witchcraft to deal with trauma.
Witchcraft is kind of a big part of your life, isn't it? You
Yeah.
know? So what does that journey look like? Was there a out-of-world moment, or was there a specific moment that made you want to pursue witchcraft, or did it come to you? Like, again, please enlighten me as much as you can.
So
That apparent temporary freeze frame about 20 seconds ago was in the original video.
I'm Irish, so our heritage before Catholicism and everything was pagan. So I think it's like in my blood quite a bit. And as a kid living in the countryside, I would always make potions. If I was in trouble, I would run across the road to the forest and go and talk to the trees.
The clips that Good Fight Ministries uses has the text in the lower left-hand side, and the clips I added are unmarked. I wanted to provide you with an extended version of Bambi's answers for context and clarity.
I always knew to ground myself I had to put my feet into dirt. I was always just very much into nature, like dissecting flowers. I was very much a little nature kid, and yeah, I think
They just explained their affinity for nature and their draw to early Irish pre-Christian belief.
I kind of lost my my tie to it, I think, for a little while when I was in secondary school, because I went to like a Catholic convent school, and I was a Protestant in the Catholic school. So yeah, it was a weird one. But
They were indoctrinated into Catholicism.
when I came to London, I lived in Muswell Hill, and I made friends with these two ladies who ran a vintage shop. Very witchy ladies. And kind of got back into it with them, and they introduced me to this woman, Valerie, who actually made the puppets for the film Labyrinth.
That's a great movie. Sorry, I have to interject every so often for copyright reasons.
So Hoggle was based on her dad, and we would meet at her house for full moon meetings, and we would chat magic and meditate and drink wine. And then I met this amazing woman called Julie Anderson. I was playing in the vintage shop in Muswell Hill, I would do performances there.
They mentioned earlier that they got back into it, so they were not discipled into it.
And I remember I was there early for sound check and chatting to the guys, and there was this lady in the corner of the room, and she was holding her phone up to her, when you're pretending not to take a video.
Sure.
You're trying to hide it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I said to Ruth, I was like, who's that lady? Is she taking photos of me? And Ruth was like, oh, that's Julie Anderson. And
I had to make a terrible stealth videographer. It takes me 5 minutes just to figure out how to use the video function, let alone be sneaky about it.
then Julie came up to me and she was just like, we need to know each other. And basically was saying that I'm like a healer witch. And since then, she's kind of become like a spiritual mentor, like my mother away from home.
Right.
I always call her my witch mom, and she hates it because she's like, I'm not your mother. I'm like, you are my mother. And she's nurtured my witchcraft a lot. We have a rowan tree. She has a rowan tree for me in her garden, and rowan trees are what witches used to make their wands out of, and use bits of the wood for spells and things. And she does tarot with me. She does I Ching. I have I have a real good spiritual advisor in Julie.
This next part of the interview is very relevant because Bambi talks about how they believe witchcraft to be, how they feel it has helped them deal with trauma, and how they incorporate it into their musical lyrics.
Is that important?
So important. I mean, like, as I said, I started therapy recently, but it's the first time in my whole life I've had it. So spirituality and witchcraft for me has been a saving grace in terms of getting through things, and also, you know, a lot of the time people are like, "Oh, you're doing spells, blah blah blah." They know that is real, and like, I'm not saying that I can like move things or like with my eyes, but like, spellcraft is very much on like quantum level of changing, I guess, changing your brain. You know, changing what you look for. You as like looking for more positives or looking for change, then you see the change. Things like crystals, where you say there's rose quartz for self-love. You know that's for self-love. Therefore, when you're holding it, that's what you're calling into yourself. So it's like you're putting attributes on these physical objects to help you achieve it yourself.
Right.
You know, that's what spellcraft is really for me.
Is it spellcraft, not witchcraft? Is that an incorrect term?
No, witchcraft, but I'm just talking about the spells.
No, of course, yeah.
Keep in mind their theory of how magic works in mind for the rest of this video.
Now that's heartbreaking to me.
He goes on to talk about a detransitioned person really trying to tie transsexuality with witchcraft. It's kind of their kink.
But one of the things he talked about was being discipled by others. And you can see testimony after testimony where it seems like maybe a lot of times older lesbian women will come after these young kids.
They explained in that clip that they were drawn to pre-Christian Irish pagan culture and met friends with similar interests. Nobody's standing on a street corner preaching the good word of our Lord and Savior, the Horned One. They also did not mention the lady's sexual leanings, so why are you assuming she was a lesbian? And this is your projection.
In a transgender way to tell them, oh, this is why you're a little different. And that's why we see the social contagion that it is today.
They didn't mention anything about this lady's gender identity. They just referred to she and her. And witchcraft can be traced to at least the beginning of the 19th century. And if you follow the line of the occult, even further back to at least the 15th century, well before the age of YouTube and TikTok.
When I say that she's casting a spell, that's not even my opinion. This is the opinion of Bambi Thug herself. When it comes to her music, listen to what she says regarding the lyrics of her songs. And I'm going to actually read from some of the lyrics of her song that she mentions is a spell.
Just keep in mind Bambi's definition of witchcraft and how it affects them. And they will clearly say they often think tsunami is a spell.
You know, words, words are spells. So retraining speech to ensure that you're not calling anything in that you don't want, you know. I always think tsunami is a spell because I wrote it.
Really?
And then I wrote it when I was on top of a bin in the rain. Did I just break up with someone else? I don't know. I was away. I was staying with friends. And I was really, really just like in a rut, and I wanted to manifest myself out of it. And Tsunami is a song about like literally getting everything, you know, and destroying everything to get there. And I think I don't know, in the last year it seems like a tsunami of itself.
It's been a big year for you, hasn't it?
It's been a big year.
Bob, Chad, would you consider gospel songs as prayers, or inspired by prayer, or based on a passage from the Bible, or influenced by a spiritual or divine experience? That's what Bambi is saying about their song Tsunami. Came from a place where they had a significant experience, and they think of it as a spell.
I always think tsunami is a spell.
And they wanted to manifest themselves out of it.
In a rut, and I wanted to manifest myself out of it.
They are correct. Choosing words and the use of language is very important, not only in spellcraft, but in everyday life.
I want to read some of those lyrics because you have to have a little bit of background on what on earth is she saying when this is a spell that she's casted, right?
They think of it as a spell. And I watched the video, and no tsunami hit me, and I even live in a coastal town. You are thinking they possess some Hollywood special effects type of magical power, when they clearly define their witchcraft as changing their mindset.
Here's what the lyrics say, quote, I'm a tsunami, I'm a tidal wave, I destroy everything in my path, no one's safe. I'm about to hit you like a hurricane. I'm about to blow up like a blanking hand grenade. Give you a taste, yo, I'm bitter like a lemon. Causing damage, I'm a blinking renegade. All my stars aligned, retrograde.
I doubt the first draft conceived on that bin and rain made it to the final lyrics, and I am sure all those lyrics have a story behind them. Thus, why they think it's a spell. If someone hears this song, they may find the lyrics resonate with them, or cause an emotional reaction in them, just like how a gospel song inspired by scripture might move another. Amazing Grace never moved anyone. Right, Bob?
We're talking about somebody who is saying that these are spells.
Bobby, listen closely. They did not say all their songs were spells. They said they think tsunami is a spell. We influence and cause change with our words every single moment of our life. We cause change to occur in conformity with our will. Even with the written word. Words are indeed powerful. Words can topple nations or build societies. Words can manipulate the masses through propaganda, or they can set a man free by revealing truth. That is why words are so important in spellcraft or in lyrics of songs.
They're saying that she casts spells, and this is how she got out of dark situations. She believes she is a witch. She wants to be crowned as a witch. She screams out she's a witch right there at the interview after this performance.
Holy crap, Bobby. Dial it back down to 11, will you? They did not say they wanted to be crowned a witch. They wrote crown the witch during their performance. And I am sure a lot of this stereotypical witch imagery is for show to make them stand out. Nothing wrong with that, but it does seem exaggerated for the audience. Which is understandable. They want to get noticed. Bambi is an entertainer, after all. Chad or Bobby or whatever his name is, it's not important. He brings on his dad, and his dad's name is Joe or Dave. Again, it's not important to get their names right. Just call them whatever you want. He looks like a Dave, so I'm calling him Dave. Dave goes on to talk about Led Zeppelin's record album, which featured So Mote It Be on one side and Do What Thou Wilt on the other. Together, they could be read as Be Your True Self, So Mote It Be. A fitting motto for a musical artist. Considering Jimmy Page's interest in Aleister Crowley, I don't find this surprising.
You have Do What Thou Wilt on the Matrix, Runoff Matrix on one side of the album. You turn it over, you have So Mote Be It.
Yes, so mote be it, and do what wilt thou. I shouldn't laugh. Dyslexic he might be.
And people know So Mote It Be and so forth as spells. In Wicca and witchcraft, you have So Mote Be It by a Crowleyan Satanist.
Aleister Crowley did not identify as a Satanist.
We're talking about Jimmy Page, the leader of Led Zeppelin, right?
Dave always seems so nervous whenever he talks. I would not consider So Mote It Be or Do What Thou Wilt as spells in of themselves. Do What Thou Wilt is half of a Thelemic saying. So Mote It Be evolved from the 14th century Freemasonic manuscript known as the Hollowell or Regius manuscript and meant so may it be or so must it be. It is repeated at the end of a ritual, much like Amen is repeated at the end of a Christian sermon. It is signifying the finalization and inevitable manifestation of a desire or thought. Dave, I got a joke for you. How do you know your birthday wishes were written by a Mason? Your birthday card reads, Happy birthday, so mote it be.
We're looking at it. We're seeing not only the popularity, but just the normalization where even like some Christians are like, oh, it's no big deal. It's not a big deal. You know, all you crazies that were saying that Harry Potter is going to lead people into witchcraft.
An absolute true made-up fact. Jimmy Page was a good Christian boy before he read J.K. Rowling's first Harry Potter novel.
And now, I mean, the numbers just say that there are more people that are practicing Wicca than are in the Presbyterian Church of USA here in the States.
I always fail to understand your appeal to the majority, but regardless, no, I don't know where you got your statistics, but in 2022, there were over 1 million members of Presbyterian churches, compared to nearly 800,000 who identified as Wiccan.
I mean, no big deal there. You even have other people that are practicing Crowleyites.
Practicing Crowleyites? What an incredibly misleading and confusing term. Do you mean people who only believe and follow Crowley's writings? You do realize that there have been much more influential writers in the various occult spheres besides the enigmatic figure of Crowley, right? Personally, I like the Cornelius Agrippanites, or the Francis Bardenites, or the infamous Israeli Regardites.
And we're talking about somebody who openly, we played the clips, they're not just our opinions, it's what she's saying, that she is a witch, a practicing witch.
Wow, Bobby, you are very perceptive. He is sharp as a tack. Nothing gets past him. Yep, Bambi Thug identifies as a witch. But that has never stopped you from labeling others as witches.
And guess what?
What?
She uses and utilizes in what's going to be her biggest performance of her career at Eurovision to get her into the finals. She is in the semifinals, and the last lyrics invoke a spell from Harry Potter.
Wow, he's getting so excited and animated. And for all you struggling witches out there, forget history, mythology, folklore, anthropology, literature, linguistics. None of that matters. Just pick up a copy of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. That's all you need to practice the old ways and celebrate Samhain. Abracadabra.
And why on earth is it a big deal that this witch...
Hey, say it. Don't spray it, Bobby.
...is literally casting spells via Harry Potter?
They mention a Frank Turek because he dared deviate from their exact point of view. Ladies and gentlemen, narrow is the road and few find it. And apparently it is gate-kept by many. Frank Turek, you are not God-fearing enough, pure enough, or Bible-knowledgeable enough to favor the good graces of these two fine and loyal Christians. Now crawl back into your den of sin, you heretic.
But I don't think Frank Turek, if he has grandchildren, would allow transvestites to come into his house and do story time for his grandchildren because he knows that's going to influence them.
I do not mean to belittle drag queens by this comparison, but children have been entertained and read to by men in makeup and bright clothing for years. How many of those kids were influenced to become clowns? Not every clown is trying to indoctrinate your child into the circus, and not every drag queen is trying to indoctrinate her child into becoming the next Priscilla, queen of the desert. Besides, most story times at libraries not only have the parents in attendance, but they are in a library supervised by other adults. This fear of indoctrination by drag queen story hour is baseless. It's not like they are sequestered alone with a handsy Father Bill and told to be quiet or God will punish them.
But we want to believe something that's not, and that's repulsive and outwardly just so disgusting to most people, but something that's more alluring, like Harry Potter, is not going to influence them even more toward witchcraft, which is on the same abomination list as queerdom and so forth.
I am sure many kids' imaginations run away with the concept of Harry Potter or Spider-Man or any number of fictional characters. But over time, they realize these are fictional characters. Radioactive spiders are not going to endow them with superhuman powers, and no owl is going to deliver them an invitation to Hogwarts. Just as they might one day realize there is no magic sky daddy watching them as they poop.
A lot of his doctrines of demons, she takes mystics from the past, sorcerers, the cornerstones, plural I'll say, of the New Age movement, the occult movement. For instance, Madame Blavatsky, you mentioned earlier, Chad, Helena Blavatsky. She takes Madame Blavatsky and she has her as Cassandra Blavatsky. She basically does an amalgamation of her name.
Hold on a minute. Are you saying that J.K. Rowling might have used real-world persons as a basis for fictional characters? Do other writers know about this?
As a seer, as a witch, which is what Blavatsky was. Blavatsky says we should worship Satan, and he is our redeemer.
No, she does not. She writes about how Lucifer is a Prometheus-type character, bringing man knowledge and enlightenment. But this fictional character is not the adversarial Satan figure from the Bible, and she does not describe Lucifer as the Redeemer. Rather than me hunting around for the quote, why don't you give a specific reference and page number?
She has Alistair
Moody.
Because no one has ever used the name Alistair before Crowley. He was the only one to ever have that first name.
Of course, she doesn't call him Aleister Crowley. She calls him Alistair Moody.
Alistair Moody, Alistair Crowley, it's all the same. Bobby Crowley, Dave Blavatsky, it's all the same. All fictional characters have to have unique names completely void of any influence, whether conscious or unconscious.
And by the way, that's the witch or sorcerer, the professor that you just played the clip of talking about, the twisting of the term, abracadabra, but Avada Kedavra. And that was Alistair Moody. That's not an accident, folks.
I'm not a history buff on the Harry Potter series written by J.K. Rowling, but the term Abracadabra sounds similar to the commonly known abracadabra charm. They sound similar, and possibly that is what the term derives from. Rowling slightly changing it to fit the world of Harry Potter. It makes sense that Rowling would use real-world characters, names, and terms to flesh out their imaginary world of wizardry. As for the charm itself, it was used to cure the fever. As the letters diminished, so was the fever itself supposed to diminish. In contrast, one could use the letters in reverse and expand them to increase wealth, for example.
As far as witchcraft, we're talking about really dark stuff. This is from the politically correct Wikipedia states this. Robinson, speaking of, Bambi, right, practices neo-pagan witchcraft, particularly sigil and manifestation magic. And sigil magic is a version of chaos magic developed by Aleister Crowley originally.
Aleister Crowley did not invent sigil magic. If you really want to give credit to a specific occultist used in creating personal sigils, I would credit Austin Osman Spar, as he expanded upon and developed personal sigils based off letters to form a glyph. Peter J. Carroll would expand upon this in his book Liber Null, 1978. However, sigils used in magic goes way back thousands of years.
They also have stated to have many as you brought out with Legion.
Nope. Wikipedia used the term they as the artist Bambi identifies as non-binary, and whoever wrote this entry used their preferred pronoun. And the term they used in your Christian book of mythology refers to multiple persons in Matthew.
To have done blood magic during their period. Wow. Stating that it's an offering of our own blood onto a spout and so forth.
Whatever they do with their period blood is their business. I'm sure as a female capable of producing life, the shedding of that blood represents something significant that I, as a man, cannot understand. If I bled from my privates, I would seek a doctor.
And it goes on to say that Robertson's music has many spells, which you actually show the video for saying that. So there's no denying that. So Chad, this is really mind blowing when you think about it, because, again,
they said they thought tsunami was like a spell. They laid it all out in this interview you chose to chop up and misrepresent. I interpret their writing that song as a cathartic experience.
Would you allow, come on, just be honest, story time to be given to your children by transvestites?
Yes, absolutely. Simply seeing a man in women's clothing wearing makeup is not going to cause little Jimmy to suddenly become gay. Just as seeing a clown does not make children want to be a clown or make them funny. And assuming that all drag queens are child abusers is not only statistically inaccurate, it's also driven by bigotry towards the LGBTQ community. Now, if you'll excuse me, I just listened to Bambi Thug's song Kawasaki, and I have an uncontrollable desire to go blow a drag queen. Until next time, my friends, I will see you in hell, you heathens.